Hi, in this video, we'll take a look at the new Python Git deployment support for Azure websites. I'm in the Azure portal. We'll click on New Website from Gallery. Under App Frameworks, there are 3 Python frameworks available: Bottle, Django, and Flask. We'll pick Bottle. Azure is now preparing the website. The website is now ready. Click on Browse to navigate to it. As you can see, this is a small but functional website. Let's enable Git deployment. Set up deployment from source control, local Git repository. This creates a repository on the Azure machine, and whenever you push commits to it, it will detect them and do a deployment. The repository URL is displayed here. Let's clone it locally. And we'll set up a remote named Azure. Before we run it, let's take a quick look at the sources. app.py is the startup script to run the application locally. It starts a development server for our Bottle app. Routes.py defines the routes for all 3 pages of our application. It uses the Bottle template engine to render the views defined in the Views subfolder. Looking at about.tpl, you can see that it prints out the title and message parameters that are passed in. All 3 views share the same base view, layout.tpl. This loads the scripts, the style sheets, and defines the application bar. Static holds all the CSS and JavaScript files. The PyProj and SLN files are for Python tools for Visual Studio. The proxy file is used to route the calls from IIS through the virtual environment to your application. Requirements.txt defines the external packages used by the application. In this case, we only have a Bottle so far. And the web.config files are used by IIS. Only one of the 2 will be used between 2.7 and 3.4, depending on which runtime the application uses. And by default, that's 2.7. There's no virtual environment in here yet because that's not kept in the Git repository. The Azure machine will create one on demand and install the requirements into it, and every developer needs to do the same. So let's create a virtual environment now. We'll use the virtual env module to create an environment named env. Install the required packages, and finally we can run it. Open the browser at port 5555. And you can see it's printing out the log. Let's stop running, and we're going to make a small change. An easy change to make is to print out the Python version. Print it out in the About page. this and we'll run again and go to about. It's printing out that I'm using 276 64-bit. So we'll commit this change and push it to Azure. And this will trigger a Git deployment. The first time it does, it will need to create a virtual environment. And then after that, it will install the packages from requirements.txt. Note that it's possible to use Python 3.4 as well. One way to do that is to create a runtime.txt file and put python-3.4 as the contents of the file. Now here it's going to install Bottle, and that's pretty quick to install, but the next deployment, if we don't add or remove packages, or it will deploy much more quickly. So now what we can do is go back to the portal deployments page, and we can see our deployment here. I can expand this, view the log, and it's printing out the same output that we got in the console window. So let's browse to it. If I go to the About page, we should see our change. You can see here it's using 278 32-bit on the Azure machine. So for more information on using Python and Git deployment for Azure websites, check out the Python Developer Center on azure.microsoft.com. Thanks for watching.